and welcome back to WRPB-TCV, and I'm Wayne. And with me today is Deborah, Cooney, and you are running for Indian River County Sheriff.
That's right.
And the reason that we brought you here is because you said something that really hit the spot. And forget Indian River County, just nationwide, police corruption is running rampant in your mind.
Yeah, well, not just in my mind.
No, but
everywhere.
I'm saying, but that's why you geared to that.
Yes.
Okay, so this is not new to you. This is something you've been working on some time already.
That's right.
So tell me about it.
Okay, I have been working on the police corruption problem since 2008, when I was sexually assaulted by a peace officer. And the police unions all ganged up together and they said, we're going to stand behind this sexual assailant and against you. And I started learning a lot of lessons about how police corruption works. Why do these officers get away with sexual assault? Why do they get away with murder? Why do they get away with false arrest? Well, one reason is because they've got the police unions behind them. And when I say police unions, I mean the Fraternal Order of Police, the Police Benevolent Society, the Florida Sheriff's Association, and every state has one, the Florida Police Chiefs Association, and every state has one. And let me also interject, when I started working on this problem, I was in California.
Okay.
So the problem is here in Florida, and I have worked on the problem here, and I have witnessed a lot of police corruption here. But when I started working on the problem of police corruption, I was in California, and I was working on events that happened in California. And so I learned a lot about the law. I learned a lot about the California state law. I also learned a lot about our federal laws, which apply everywhere in the US of A. Now I'm in Florida, so of course I've had to learn a lot about the Florida laws. And I can tell you this, under every law here in the United States of America, that goes for state, federal, and local laws, police corruption is a crime. It
Right.
is not allowed by law.
But now let me ask you this. Is it the majority or is it the minority? Because I know there are a lot of great cops. Okay?
Absolutely.
And like in life, the few ruin it for the many.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's been a problem in every industry.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
we try to clean it up in this industry. Someone tries to clean it up in this industry. You
Yes.
want to clean it up in your industry.
Yes.
And that's the platform that you're going towards.
Right.
Is it like, are you up against, for lack of a better word, the good old boys club?
You can call it the Good Old Boys Club. You can call it the KKK. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan. You can call it a lot of things, but it's actually emanating from the police unions. And the reason why it's not a problem of bad apples, right? Because I'm with you. There are a lot of good police officers out there.
Well, you
and
wouldn't
I'm
want to
the
get
first
into
say
it because otherwise you'd be there by yourself.
Bingo. Otherwise, and people say, why aren't you a police officer? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if I were a police officer, I would be Serpico.
Right. You'd be the outcast.
And that's not what I want to do.
Right.
I'm not willing to come into it on the bottom. I will come into it at the top, which is the sheriff's position, and I will root out the corruption from the top down. If I came in at the bottom, I would be just powerless. There would be nothing I would be able to do. And if I tried to report any of the corruption like Serpico did, famously, and look what they did to him.
Right.
They set him up to be just shot in the face. And
You'd be in the same position.
I'm not willing to be in that position.
And I don't blame you. I surely understand where you come from. And I surely understand why it doesn't pay for you to go into law enforcement unless you can go into a position where you can fix some of the issues.
Exactly.
Okay, otherwise,
exactly.
because when I heard you speak and you said, well, you're running for sheriff, I was like, well, why wouldn't you want to be in the sheriff's department or an officer? But now I get it.
Exactly.
Because you're right. If you just came in as a rookie or a deputy,
Yes.
you would be shunned, you'd be the outcast, and you'd be set up.
I would be fired, and there would probably be crimes committed against me. So there really would be, I would be very ineffective doing it through that method. And that's why when I looked at the laws, the election laws, and I saw that all you have to do in order to run for sheriff is you have to be 18 years old and you have to be a resident of the county. Those are the only qualifications.
Wow.
And then in order to get on the ballot, and I am on the ballot in the November election. I am running as no party, so I am not in the August election because that's a party
Part of it,
primary.
right.
Yeah, but I am on the ballot in November, and in order to get on the ballot, I had to get 1,132 verified petitions
Oh,
signed by residents or registered voters in Indian River County, and I did get that. You can do that, or you can pay a fee of like $5,500.
It's always that way.
Well, what happened to me is I got the 1,132 verified signatures. So people do want me to be on the ballot, and they do want me to run for sheriff. So I am, I'm deferring to their
Right.
decision.
Right, because
that
anybody
they-
can pay $5,500.
Yes, so they did want me to run for sheriff. But unfortunately, because of the coronavirus and the shutdown, I was 2 weeks late in submitting my petitions, and they rejected them. I mean, I got 945 submitted by the deadline, and the rest, I went out and collected them because I wanted to show that I did have the
Right.
support of the community, but the deadline had passed, and I got no response when I asked for an extension on the deadline. So they required me to pay the money, so I came up with the money and I paid the money.
I'm so proud of you well, here's what it is. I started this company 25 years ago. There was no such thing as internet radio because that's what it was back then. And everybody said, it's a pipe dream. Don't be stupid, get a real job. But it was a goal of mine to do. And it always impresses me when somebody has a vision and a reason to do what they do. And I tell people, don't come in here and talk bad about anybody because that doesn't benefit you. And I hate politics, so I'm just like, that's me. Politics has become a nightmare because it's either red or blue. Okay? And I personally would want a
I'm no
sheriff
party. No
who
party.
would want no party.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you're a sheriff. You're not a political person. Okay? You're standing for law enforcement, not for conservative values or liberal. That's not what you're here for. You're here. You don't make the rules.
Right.
Okay? There's the book of rules. You have to follow them.
That's right.
Okay? And I think that in politics, here's the book of rules, you have to follow them. I think people just say, well, you know what? I got elected, I want to make my own rules. And that becomes a problem. So it's very impressive to me that you decided to take the bulls by the horns and do this, and it's not an easy task.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
Campaigning for anything is not an easy task. We've dealt with a lot of people who've run for office, and my philosophy in this company is you can be Democrat, Republican, Independent, you're welcome to come in, as long as you don't talk bad about someone else. How will I know what that person stands for without listening to them? Okay, so if I'm a Republican and I just have Republicans on, how would I know what the Democrat candidate stands for? Or if I'm a Democrat and I have how would I know what the Democrat stands for? You can't make an intelligent decision by saying, I like red better than the color blue, or I like blue better than the color red. And you chose not to affiliate yourself with a party. So you chose not to affiliate yourself with a party. Major plus. You chose not to put yourself in harm's way and start at the bottom.
That's right.
Okay? Because you get nothing done. Plus that. And just the fact that, take this like meaning as they say it, that someone's crazy enough to run for any office is a whole nother story in itself.
Yes, well, they are accusing me of being crazy.
Are they?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of defamation going on out there, especially directed toward me. And I think because I'm the only candidate that is I'm the anti-corruption candidate, I'm the law and order candidate. I am the candidate who has been prosecuting police misconduct in courts of law since 2008. So I have been addressing this problem for a very long time. And I have, studied and practiced the law in regards to, the constitutional issues of police conduct and what they are supposed to be doing. I think those are the skills that we really need, the skills and experience that we really need for the top law enforcement officer in Indian River County.
Or any county.
Probably, but I happen to be running in
Right,
Indian
but I'm
River.
saying,
Yeah.
in any county,
Yeah.
this is the top law enforcement officer has to have these qualities.
Yes, they should. And in the past, they haven't had those qualities. They have just been cops on the street who have worked their way up the system, but they never bothered to learn. And they have been trained by the police academies, which are run by the police unions. We talked about the corruption
Right.
going on there. If they were actually trained in the law and in the constitutional law and what rights that people have that they need to respect, I think that a lot of our good officers would be acting a lot differently. And that's why the issue of bad apples, it's not bad apples there, it's a bad system. That needs to really be changed from the top down. And that can be done by putting in the right candidate as sheriff and then electing that candidate as sheriff. And that's certainly my plan of how to fix things in Indian River County. And although as the top cop in Indian River County, I can really only address the legal issues going on there. However, we can be a role model for the rest of the county, for the rest of the country,
right.
and the rest of Florida, and the neighboring counties. We can be a role model of this is how it's done. If you want your sheriff's department to start obeying the law, then this is how you do it. You put up a candidate who is good at constitutional law, and especially police misconduct, who can really change things from the top down, and who is committed to changing things and shows a track record of adhering to those values that person is running on, and so that's the case with me. Then we can start from the top down, rooting out the police unions, getting them out of there, because what they do is they unduly influence the prosecutors, the judges, and so that's why you have police officers and they look like bad apples, but the police unions really install them there, and there's no way to fire them.
Is this going to be, once you get elected,
Yeah.
is this going to be a slow process?
Well, we're going to take it step by step, and we're going to move as quickly as we can, of course, because we want justice and peace in the community quickly. And there's a lot of healing that needs to take place in our community, because our community has been so ravaged by the misconduct of the police officers and the police unions, corrupt judges, corrupt prosecutors. So we're going to move as quickly as we can toward justice and toward healing. But there is a step-by-step process that I am in the process of laying out. And the first step, really, we do have to get the police unions out of there. And the reason is because if we try to fire some of the officers who have committed murder or other crimes against some of our citizens, the police unions just come in and they reinstall those officers, and there's no way to get rid of them.
And they have a ton of money behind them.
Exactly, yes, because the police unions do not work for the police officers like other unions are labor unions.
Right.
The police unions are not labor unions. They do some collective bargaining, but that's a minor part of what they do. What they mostly do is they unduly influence judges, prosecutors, and police departments and other political officers such as city councilors, county commissioners. They come in and they unduly influence those people in order to get their strong arm them and get their way. And they've been, they have been terrorizing our country, and our country is now at a crisis in policing. We are at a crisis.
Yes, we are.
I mean, you just look at the news reports of all the protests and all the rioting that's going on around the peaceful protesters, and people are just up in arms about this, and the police unions are very upset about this, because this is the very first time that their authority has really been threatened in any way. And my candidacy really threatens the authority of the police unions, and that's why there's been so much defamation directed at me.
And we spoke about it before we came on the air.
Yes.
It's not about talking bad about someone else.
Yes.
Okay? That has become the campaign slogan, smear campaign. Okay? I didn't really have you on. I wanted to know what you were going to do. I wanted you guys to know what somebody who has a plan, has an idea, and has been doing this in the back office, for lack of a better word, for years. Okay? She's not one that's... The cool thing is, you're not one that's going to say, hey, Joe, the officer, was driving drunk, so we're just going to let him off because he's under me, because I'm the sheriff.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
So, the law is the law. It's just... Here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you a quick story because we're running out of time. I take care of my 88-year-old mom. I took her out of assisted living. She had a bad urinary tract infection. She barely knew who she was. I didn't know much about caregiving. So I put a camera in the house. I was going to come to work for 2 hours. I'm watching the camera, and I look, and my mom's on the floor. So I tear out of here, and I go to Crosstown, which is our new road, brand new, and I'm doing 68 miles an hour. I get stopped by the cops.
Oh.
And I show him the picture, and he still gives me a ticket. Now, my opinion is he should have done, get in the car, let's go, I'll take you.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a ticket later.
Absolutely.
Or call 911 himself, okay?
Yes.
Or let me go. I called around because I know some of the people, and though they like me and we're close, that other person's an officer. Now, he gave me a ticket for 54. I went to court, and by the time I went to court, I was kind of over it, and I was just going to pay. And you don't see a judge, you actually see like an arbitrator, a lady was there. And he said, his mom had fallen, but it's still very dangerous, which is true. I was driving 60, and my mind wasn't where it should be. So she... didn't give me any points, no school, I paid the 131, whatever, and I was okay with that. And he was nice enough to say, his mom had fallen. But in my mind, if that was his mom, he'd be doing 68 miles an hour also.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
And if he got stopped, they'd let him go and they'd continue on.
That's the police unions. They all have those connections. But I will tell you, in your case, if I were the officer or the supervisor of the officer and training the officers as to what they should do in that case, what they should have done was given you a police escort.
At least call 911.
Well, to get to your mom quickly.
Right.
And then once you're with your mom and we see what she needs, if we do need an ambulance or something, they should have assisted you in calling 911. You're not a criminal.
No.
You were trying to help your mom. The officer has the discretion not to give you a speeding ticket in that situation, and honestly, in that situation, I wouldn't give you the speeding ticket. But the officer can give you the speeding ticket under the law, is allowed to do that. But I think that the officer's conduct in delaying you rather than dealing with the emergency with your mom is very inhumane and really the wrong thing
And I
to
said
do.
to the people that I know, I said, I have a problem. You going to give me a ticket? That's fine. But let's take care of my mom first.
Exactly.
And then give me
And
the
then do
ticket.
the ticket,
I
right.
don't have a problem. I was speeding. I was breaking the law.
Yes.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Every one of you here would have broken the law if you saw your mom on the floor.
That's right.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, had something seriously happened, I would have brought a suit against the city. Where it would go, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the difference for me is I have this vehicle to help me out. Okay, most people, if something bad happens, they tell 10 people. I tell all these people. So, but I didn't want to do that. I live here. I like where I live. And I know that most of the officers are cool. Okay, and most of the police do their job and try to do the best job. But now you've taught me so much over this short interview that I looked at it as, you know what, it was the good old boys, and they're going to stick up for one. I didn't put together that the unions
It's the unions.
are really controlling stuff.
They are.
And
Yeah.
when you had first spoken that you were running, I was like, running for sheriff? She was never in the police department. But now, I get it, because you can't join. You would go nowhere.
Right.
And you'd put your life at risk.
That's right.
Okay.
And I do have the background and the experience to do it, because the background and experience that we need in the sheriff's office is someone who has been studying the law and practicing the law regarding police misconduct, and who has really studied the policy issues, like what's happening out there in reality, like how are the police unions pulling the strings here, what is going on here. So having studied that for 12 years and having, brought lawsuits against various police departments for 12 years and understanding the law, I think that gives me the right set of skills that a person needs to be the sheriff of Indian River County at this time. Now, if I had the on-the-street policing skills, that would be a plus.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had that, would I also have the skills that I have acquired too? And I probably wouldn't have both set of skills.
That's very true.
And the other folks that are running for sheriff, they all came up as officers on the street.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that background. So now we're putting it out to the voters. Which sheriff do you think would be the best? Someone with the background of coming up through the street, being members of these police unions, which are very corrupt, we've established that, and they're still members of the police unions, and a lot of them, the police unions, are supporting their campaigns. Now, the police unions despise me. They do not support my campaign.
I can't imagine why.
And I do not support their illegal activities. So we're asking the voters, do you want someone that's actually been working on the problem of police misconduct, who's extensively studied the law and practiced it and extensively studied the policies and put together a good policy platform to address this problem? Or do you want someone that came up as a cop on the street that's part of the corrupt system? And that's what separates me from the other candidates.
And that's a choice that you have to research and decide for yourself. You're all grown up. You're all smart enough to figure out the whole thing when it comes to elections and politics. With that, we're at the top of the time. Check now. Do you have a website?
Yes, I do. I don't know it
Okay.
offhand. But the best way to find me, I am on Facebook and
Okay.
on LinkedIn.
Okay. It's Deborah.
Deborah
Cooney.
Cooney, Cooney, like
Okay.
George Clooney without the L.
Okay.
I'm also on the Supervisor of Elections website for Indian River County. All the candidates are listed there, and there are links to all of my various websites. I have a law blog as well on WordPress, but off the top
That's
of my
okay,
head, I
that's
can't
fine.
remember what it is. But it is all listed right on the Supervisor's website, and you can find me on Facebook too.
It was a pleasure having you on. Everybody check her out, and we'll be right back.